$1 million Bitcoin, Samson. When's that going to happen?
My guess is it's going to be this year.
It's going to be this year.
You look at all the factors that we're facing. You have
That's a 10x.
Bitcoin has 17x in the past. There is no upper bound to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But when things solidify, then you kind of go up. And everyone that was panicking and looking off that precipice, they've been left behind already. And because the supply is so limited right now and the demand is so high, it's just going to shoot up. And you're going to see that kind of 2017 face melting shock and awe rise in Bitcoin price.
Samson Mow's insanely bullish Bitcoin prediction for 2025. Are you ready? Bitcoin's next bull run isn't just coming. It's about to be a face-melting frenzy, according to Samson Mow. And if history is any guide, his prediction isn't just hype, it's backed by cold, hard numbers. Cast your mind back to 2017. Bitcoin started the year at a humble $1,000. By December, it had skyrocketed to $20,000. Fast forward to 2021, Bitcoin hit an all-time high of $67,000. Now, Mo believes we're on the cusp of another explosive rally, and this time the stakes are even higher. Why? Institutional and corporate adoption is accelerating at a pace we've never seen before. Governments are inching closer to making Bitcoin a strategic reserve asset, which could trigger an unprecedented wave of adoption. And let's not forget Trump. He's hinted at fulfilling his promise of a Bitcoin-friendly stance, a move that could send shockwaves through the financial world. But that's just the beginning. Stablecoins are reshaping the way we interact with money, and their impact on everyday people could be revolutionary. What role will they play in this evolving landscape? How will they change the way you save, invest, and spend? We've got all the insights lined up for you. But before we dive in, take a second to smash that like button, drop a comment, and share this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now so you never miss an update on Bitcoin and the crypto markets. Now, let's get into it.
A lot of Bitcoiners, especially really hardcore maximalists, are like Bitcoin and nothing else. But you have the luxury as a Bitcoiner in the West to buy Bitcoin. A lot of people are just trying to earn a living and get by. They may not have a bank account. They can't get a bank account because they don't have an address. And they're excluded. The financial system is a two-tier system. People can get in and people cannot get in. That's it. And it's engineered that way. And it will always be that way. The only thing that can break that system is Bitcoin. So the reason why people are seeking Tether and stablecoins is because they need access to that system. They don't yet understand Bitcoin, but they do want the dollar to hedge, right? So if you're a merchant and you're selling stuff and your suppliers want dollars or Argentinian pesos, and you have Bitcoin, there is volatility in Bitcoin both ways, and we can't ignore the fact that some guy taking Bitcoin can lose a significant amount of money just by taking Bitcoin and not hedging, because that's not their savings. It's not yet really savings as long as there is volatility. It's savings for people that can weather volatility. People that can't, they need a stable unit. And Bitcoiners like to say, well, stable coins are not stable because the fiat money is devaluing, but compared to the Argentinian peso, the dollar is gold, right? Or compared to the bolivar, it's gold. And I think we just have to ignore people that criticize that and focus on onboarding these 400 million people to liquid Tether and Bitcoin.
You said that Jan 3 focuses on hyperbitcoinization. What is that?
Hyperbitcoinization is the point at which we no longer convert Bitcoin into fiat. There's only Bitcoin left. So it's the end state, really. And you could say it's hyperinflation of the dollar, really. Right? When the dollar hyperinflates, then no one's going to want the dollar. They will just want Bitcoin. So yeah, it's the greatest demonetization event in human history. Basically, all fiat will die all at the same time, very rapidly, and everyone just wants Bitcoin and transacts in Bitcoin.
Really? It's just, so you don't see a world where the dollar and Bitcoin can coexist?
I don't see it, but a lot of Bitcoiners do see it. I think Saylor is one of those. Like, if you look at his Bitcoin 24 model, right? He actually tapers off the model after a number of years to kind of slow the death of Bitcoin, slow the death of fiat. So Bitcoin growth tapers off. But I think monetary systems, especially when you're dealing with 100x improvement over the old system and even over gold, it's not a gradual taper. It's just a flip of the switch. Everyone's just going to switch to this new thing. I don't see that happening in Bitcoin, and we didn't even see that happen with the devaluation of the German mark. It wasn't that it slowly tapered off, and there was one baker in this village over there that was still taking the mark, 5 years later, because that network effect of that money dies. So maybe some people have it in a drawer, but no one's actually going to exchange anything for the mark.
What do you think were the motivations behind the IMF asking for those concessions from El Salvador? Are they scared of Bitcoin, Samson?
I think the IMF is definitely scared of Bitcoin because they are a fiat organization. For those people that don't know, they have their own shitcoin. It's called the
SDR.
Yeah, SDR, Strategic Drawing Rights, which means they can just kind of print their own money out of thin air too. But with Bitcoin, they're irrelevant, or they need to adopt Bitcoin. It's their choice. Either you adapt or you die. But I think there's another darker angle here, which is they're basically a loan shark. Their job is to lend money in perpetuity to countries like El Salvador and developing places around the world. And this kind of puts them out of a job. So I think they had to fight for that, or they wanted to save face, because remember, they made a big stink about all the Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador, that you're gonna fail, it's dangerous and whatnot. And when they're wrong and they're incorrect, and the metrics prove them incorrect, vastly incorrect, I think they need something to save face. So maybe they insisted on these concessions just so they can say, yes, we got something. As you said, it doesn't really matter, because that's kind of government top-down adoption is icing on the cake. The real important part is the grassroots adoption. And I think that still needs work too. We should not be lying to ourselves and say, yeah, it's perfect already. We've got, educational initiatives and we're good here. There's still a lot of people here in El Salvador that have no idea. And we still have a lot of work to do.
I think every Bitcoiner has read the book, The Sovereign Individual, by now, at least a couple times. In the book, essentially makes the case that information technologies were essentially going to take away the importance away from nation states and from governments. And one of the biggest funding mechanisms of government, of the state, is their ability to print money out of thin air. Once that ability goes away, what is the role of government in society?
The whole way that government works right now is very flawed. And I think about this a lot because I work on a game set in the future. So I'm trying to think, how does government work in the future? And there are differing schools of thought. Some Bitcoiners think anarchy, and it's just free for all. I think you still need some structure in place, because there will be bad people that do bad things, and you need to be able to deal with that somehow. And I think there will still be a need for relationships with other groups, like diplomacy. So I think there is some role for government, very scaled back, very administrative, not prescriptive in many ways, and based off of some sort of foundational codex of laws that's far simplified, and mirroring a bit of Bitcoin. So consensus-based rules, where to do something, you need a supermajority to consent to it. So there is no war, no emergency act, no martial law able to be done without active consent of people. So that's probably somewhere we go, but definitely Bitcoin will change that relationship, because they can't print money, they can't take your money, so they just shrink naturally. Bitcoin gives me hope that it will break this system. So Bitcoin fixes this.
What do you think happens to the price of Bitcoin if the strategic Bitcoin reserve thing does go through in the United States? It looks like it's going to happen on the state level before the federal level.
Well, as Adam Back says, that's the path to 1 million.
$1 million Bitcoin, Samson. When's that going to happen?
My guess is it's going to be this year.
It's going to be this year.
You look at all the factors that we're facing. You have...
That's a 10x.
Bitcoin has 17x in the past. There is no upper bound to Bitcoin. So there are people that talk about diminishing returns, right? But if it's a step change, just like the failure of the German mark, it's not a gradual thing and there's no upper bound. It's just gone. And you use a new thing now, right? It's like, yeah, we don't use horses for transportation anymore. We came here on a car or on airplanes and whatnot. So we use a new thing. And Bitcoin is that new thing because it's 100, if not 1,000 times better than anything else we've used as money in human history. But back to the point, what do we have? We have MicroStrategy buying nonstop. We have ETFs, which are a doorway to legacy fiat money. If you go back to all the previous bull runs, where we get bogged down is the exchanges, because that's the touch point, right? That's how you convert fiat into Bitcoin. And if you remember back in the old bull runs, it was like Kraken's backlog for KYCing people was 3 months long. Coinbase, same thing. That's the bottleneck, because to comply as an exchange, you have to KYC everyone, and you don't keep 1,000-person KYC team, right? You have to keep a team that you can feed, and you can't scale it up that quickly. So that's kind of where it tapers off. But with the ETFs, there is no bottleneck anymore. Central banks can buy ETFs. So any demand for Bitcoin can now be satiated without any problem whatsoever. And that is really big. That's why actually I thought 2024 was going to be the year we hit 1 million, because I don't think people fully understand how big that is. Central banks can buy ETFs. There is no barrier for fiat money entering Bitcoin. But I think this year we'll hit it, since we missed last year. But you have MicroStrategy, you have ETFs, you have the removal of the barrier, you have nation states, and what else? There's just so much going on, like real adoption of Bitcoin. So I just can't see it not hitting 1 million this year. And the other thing is, you see a lot of people predicting prices, right? They like to be cautious and realistic and say, yeah, it can get to 150. It can get to 200. It can get to 250. Because I think they want to sound reasonable. Nobody wants to be the crazy guy saying it's going to 10x, like me. They want to be, I'm a serious person with realistic projections. But Bitcoin is not a realistic thing. It's a zero-sum game. Either you're going to use Bitcoin or you're going to starve. So it's all or none. And when you get to different levels, like when you get to 100K, when you get to 100K, it's different, right? When you get to 200K, the world again looks very, very different. Just close your eyes and imagine, what does the world look like when Bitcoin is at 500K? That's you're reaching half of gold's market cap at that point, That will demonetize gold if it doesn't get demonetized earlier, because there's talk of the US selling gold to buy Bitcoin to fund their reserves, because that would take out their enemies who have been accumulating gold for the last decade, right? But disregard that. Bitcoin is sitting at 500K. We are the second largest asset now behind gold. It's a very different landscape. And at that point, do you think most people would still want to sell their Bitcoin to get fiat? Or would most people now insist on being paid in Bitcoin? I think it's the latter. So from there, you just 2x.
Yeah.
And then you're number one. I don't know what to call it. It's like a precipice effect, Like you're standing on the edge of the cliff. People are scared because, yeah, we can fall a lot from 100K. And that's why you kind of like hover at that area for a while. Because it's scary looking down. Like, what if we go to 70? And you remember when we had a little dip, everyone was saying, oh, we're going back to 70.
Yeah.
But when things solidify, then you kind of go up. And everyone that was panicking and looking down, looking off that precipice, they've been left behind already. And because the supply is so limited right now and the demand is so high, it's just going to shoot up. And you're going to see that kind of 2017 face melting shock and awe rise in Bitcoin price.
And that's a wrap. But now it's your turn. Do you think Samson Mow's bold prediction could come true? Could Bitcoin really hit $1 million by the end of 2025? The clock is ticking, and only time will tell. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get the debate going. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, share it with fellow Bitcoin believers, and subscribe for more deep dives into the crypto world. Your support keeps us going. Thanks for watching, and I would see you in the next one.